So in transportation specific to rail, aviation, on the road, so trucking companies, what we're seeing a lot of is we're seeing a lot of things that quite frankly could be preventable. We're seeing a lot of incidents that are related to either rushing, to trying to get the job done as fast as they can, or it could just be, some systematic or cultural issues that are left unaddressed, and so eventually they're surfacing up, and that's what we're seeing is a lot of incidents and injuries that quite frankly could have been preventable. Specific to the transportation segment, what I'm seeing quite a lot is there's incidents related to what we call some brain-centered hazards. So there's urgency and stress pressures that are causing people to work faster. There is a skill gap issue, which is causing a lot of people to, again, have that stress and urgency pressure, needing to perform and do things that they're probably not that comfortable with. There's a lot of challenges when it comes to social things. So you have organizations that have people with a lot of tenure to now just coming into the workforce. And so there's that pressure to want to behave and act like the people that have been around for so long. And so what we're seeing is a lot of accidents that could have been prevented. And when you link that back to what leadership could do, leaders could play a role by having what we call chronic unease. This idea that anything at any moment could happen in their workforce, and if they're getting a little too comfortable or they're not picking up on signs and cues and things that can actually go wrong, this is what's catching them. And when you look at the limelight today, there's a lot of stuff that's happening across aviation, across rail, even in the trucking industry, that people are just sort of they're being robotic in their movement. That's what we call the fast brain. So what we want to do is we want to be intentional, want them to be intentional in what they do, and we want leaders to set the right tone. So at DECRA, what we have is when we look at human performance, we look at the 7 precursors to human error. And what we call them is we call them brain-centered hazards. Now, I want to talk about the ones that are most specifically and related to serious injury and fatality prevention. One that concerns me quite a bit is what we call cognitive fatigue. When people are going to work and they don't sleep well and they're not getting the good sort of restful sleep, what is happening is that they're behaving and functioning as if they're operating mostly in what we call the fast brain. So they're not thinking about their movement, they're not thinking about what's happening, and that is, in organizations where people are coming to work fatigued, they are ripe for a serious injury or fatality. Because what happens is they go right into the fast brain, which is the second brain-centered hazard, and so they're just operating like robots. So at DECRA, we do a lot of work within the human performance reliability space as well as the SIF prevention space. What we find when we do analysis, when we look at analysis of incidents and we map them to brain-centered hazards, or we map them to the things that have the potential for serious injury and fatality. And what we often don't see that show up in incident investigations or incident analysis is stuff around fatigue. So we often can't detect for that or see it because of the incident sort of reports not having enough detail. The other thing that we don't often detect for is stress and urgency. It's hard to pick that up in an incident description. So what I urge organizations to do is go back and look at the quality of the incident descriptions they have. And if you map them or even look at them from a brain-centered hazard analysis perspective or a SIF prevention perspective, you have to understand what is causing some of those things to occur.